Welcome back to the 2021 Worlds, and I'm here with Ravi Parent from the U.S. Nacra 17 team.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. It's been a really fun event and excited for some more racing today.
This is going to be one of our only technical talks today, but we'll try to make it as fun as possible. One of the challenges that the Nacra 17 class has had since it was introduced in Rio for the Rio Olympics 2016. And in that event, they had just regular straight rudders, no other appendages on them, and then C-shaped dagger boards that had a lot of lift, but the boats really never sailed fully clear of the water, I guess. Then between 2016 and Tokyo 2020, lifting dagger boards were added, and T-foil rudders were added to help control the balance of the boat fore and aft so they can fly flat and fully out of the water, foiling. And so what has happened since then in the development of the class, this class can change its appendages just as long as it votes on it, just like it did between the Olympics. It went from a non-foiling class to a foiling class and didn't have to get world sailing approval to do that, which is really cool. Now they're just trying to control the boat just a little bit more because they're a little wild. So Ravi, tell me what these boats are like to sail right now, and then what the class is just working on right now to make them more controllable.
So overall, I think the boats are quite fun to sail. They're very challenging in several different conditions, but also quite rewarding. So right now we have sort of an active dagger board control, active meaning that we have to physically adjust it. It's not sort of an auto-regulating system. And like Chris, you said, we have the T-rudders, but those are sort of set before the race. 4 bolts hold it in place, and we have to pick our setting, kind of like your out haul or some major setting like that. And that kind of has strengths in simplicity and allowing us to generally foil around the race course, but it's also a bit limiting in that you really kind of have to pick where you're optimizing the boat, whether it's for upwind or downwind or for a certain breeze strength or sea state, and it sort of limits the full potential of the boat there.
Right. So, and if I'm not mistaken, when I watch you guys, when you go in full foiling mode, the crew does a tremendous amount of forward and aft movement. Is that kind of the major lift and dive control?
Yeah, that's what you could more realistically call the active control. The crew is basically, the common term now is flight controller, so the crew is basically running a lot of those pitch, and obviously the driver's helping a bit as well. But generally, you don't have time to make these really small adjustments with both foils or the rudders or anything like that. So the strongest thing you can do is just move your body and trim the sails.
Great. So fast forward to September of this year, and I was told that the class has been moving towards a more active control system, not for the dagger boards, those are the same, but like in the Moth class, you can control your rudder angle with a T-foil, so you can control the pitch of the boat more regularly or with more stability. And as opposed to a crew running all the way back and forth, you can't do that on a Moth or other kinds of foiling boats. So what does the class develop, and tell me what you had tested over the course of the summer and the pandemic.
Yeah, so we've we've developed an adjustable rudder system. It's basically a system that allows us to change the angle of attack of the rudder about 4.5 degrees.
Meaning like fore and aft?
Yep,
because
exactly.
it has a foil on the bottom of it, and that changes it going in decreasing lift or adding lift to the transom.
Yeah, exactly. And that's changing the angle of attack there, and it's really controlling the pitch of the boat. It's really changing how the boat, its attitude is in the water. And that's really relevant for different sea states or different boat speeds and breeze conditions. And it really opens up the opportunity for us to be more optimized around the race course, whether you're going upwind and you need a little bit of rudder lift to kind of help the boat stay in control going up and over waves, or downwind you don't want to sail around with too much rudder lift. You want to actually be able to keep the bow out of the water. You can really make a difference between upwind and downwind.
Right, and that's just like what we see in moth sailing. You go around the weather mark, and you're decreasing lift in the rudder to lift the bow up, to keep the bow up, and so you're not crashing down in the waves.
Yeah.
So you have been sailing the A-class catamaran, the international A-class catamaran, which in their rules have a lot more flexibility in terms of your control systems. So this rudder control system has been developed, and you tested it in A-cats. And what did you discover in terms of the controllability of the boat using this system?
It's actually been really, really helpful for the A-class. The A-class, it's a much lighter boat. It's a single-handed boat, so the driver is also the crew and is doing basically everything on the boat because it's one person. And having this adjustable rudder system and also the ability to add differential really makes a huge difference.
Now explain differential. That's a little bit complex for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Differential, in simplest terms, is the ability to adjust each rudder independently. So for our purposes, it's to be able to put the windward rudder to a negative lift, so it's adding riding moment, making you feel heavier.
Holding the weather down.
Yep.
The weather hull down, and then.
Boat goes faster, and it really helps really convert that power into speed.
Right, but the differential is weather rudder pulling down.
Yes, pulling down.
And then the leeward rudder
is adding lift.
Adding lift,
yeah.
Like the America's Cup boats do.
Exactly like that.
So,
yeah.
Very cool. That sends it into a whole new level.
Yeah, it's really going to help us now that we've really started to develop the system in the Nacra 17. I see that we're going to see a bit more upwind foiling in the class, especially in these flatter conditions whenever we get them, and it's really going to be a bit more exciting.
Awesome. Now, you developed this system. It's an adjustable system. The dagger board is using a spool with line, and we're going to try to pop a picture into this interview, but just tell me, as briefly as you can, how actively can you control this rudder angle system?
About as actively as you can control any other control line. So for anyone who's familiar with catamarans, we have a mast rotation, for example. The rudder system is right next to it on the deck. Perhaps we could show a picture of that too, where it's something that you're not going to have it in your hand all the time, but it's something that, puff, lull, maybe bigger transition or tack jibe, you can make some adjustments. So it's not quite the full auto-regulating system, but it's definitely something that you're going to adjust frequently.
Awesome. And I did hear that at the meeting, so you had been the test guinea pig, but that at the meeting in September, this had to be approved. And it's pretty hard to get things changed in any class association because there's a bunch of people with a bunch of different ideas. But you tested it, you came back with your opinion, and Ben Remerker from the class association said this whole thing rested on you. So I guess the whole class has some thanks to you for an easier to sail boat, maybe. How did that meeting go?
Hope so. Yeah. Some of the big selling points for the system were it's easy adoption. So all we're changing really is the upper gudgeon. So we're just mounting a new upper gudgeon at a slightly different location.
Yeah. So there are 2 points that hold the rudder to the boat.
Yep.
And those are the gudgeon.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So a lot of the hardware really stays the same. We're just adding one piece of hardware there. It's all external. So the ACATs nowadays have actually, a lot of them gone into through transom systems, which cut out holes and all these complicated things, but this is really basic system. One of the other selling points was I used the system on an older boat the whole time, and one of the big questions for people was durability of equipment, durability of sails, durability of boats, and I put in, all the days I did sailing, I put on, one of the early foiling Nacra 17s, a 2017 boat. So that was really cool to see and really telling that this system is, it has a lot of potential.
Cool. And so I guess the last thing I'll say is you did a lot of your practicing with this throughout the pandemic because you had nothing else to do. But as an athlete through the last year and now showing up at this World Championship, I mean, you're psyched to be here, obviously. Mm-hmm. And do you feel like you've missed out on anything over the last year in terms of your training for the next Olympics, or how are you feeling right now in your campaign? Are you anxious, or you just have a nice plan and you're feeling like you're hitting the groove even though we're 1 year into the cycle? Yeah,
I mean we're always wish we could do more racing. Always wish you have more time. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's going to wish they sailed more. The important thing is we're just trying to make the best of every situation we have. Over the past year, between a bit of training in the Nacra 17 and some cross training in the A class, whenever we couldn't do the Nacra 17 sailing, it was sort of the best way we could use our time. And we come in here with the skills that we have and eager to race and looking forward to the next day.
Cool. What's your big goal for 2022?
Keep pushing in this Nacra 17 rudder system, kind of see how the class develops, and it's going to be really interesting because everyone's going to approach it a different way and just really learn from everyone.
Yeah, so that'll be big. And when does everyone start using those, do you think?
I haven't heard exactly when Nacra's going to start selling it to everyone. I believe they're going to put out the pre-orders next week, but my my instincts tell me it's probably going to be around Palma when we're going to see it. So
yeah, this is the first big spring regatta.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Ravi, thanks so much, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cheers. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.